Hi everybody, it's David here. Yesterday we talked a little bit about the logging journey, which was a super fun way to see how logs move through a system and how they arrive in Elastic and how they get used. Now, one of the most important parts of that was essentially the middle part where we're actually doing processing of log files. And so we like to call that the school phase for our logging that we talked about yesterday. So what I wanted to do is talk about how Loggy goes to school with Logstash. So as you know, Elastic has a really great tool for collecting logs and processing logs called Logstash. So I thought I'd just do a quick overview, quick getting started of how to use Logstash. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to Elastic Cloud here and create a new deployment. So I'm going to use Google Cloud. I'm going to select the latest version and I'm going to call it Loggy goes to school. So let's do it, right? Create this deployment. And whilst it's creating that deployment in Elastic Cloud, I'm going to switch back to this Logstash guide over here, which talks about getting started with Logstash. So what you want to do is check the JVM version. That's not important in this case because Logstash comes with a perfectly fine version of the SDK that we can use. So we can actually just get straight into installing Logstash. So in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the apt instructions here and I'm going to go and install Logstash on my newly created Ubuntu instance over here. So let's install the key first and so on. Oh, that's the wrong window. Here we go. Install that as per the instructions and do this as per the instructions, and then let's install Logstash. Okay, Logstash is now being installed. This is exactly what we wanted. Okay, so now Logstash is being installed. We can start to have a little look at what the next steps are. So in the getting started guide, we want to do stashing your first event. So this looks very, very simple. So let's go and have a look at what that looks like over here. Right now Logstash is installed. It is located at user share Logstash bin. So in here we can see the Logstash command. And so what we're going to do is we're going to run a very simple command. And what this will do is, as per the guide here, is it will take input from standard input, which is the command line essentially, and it will output it to the console. Right, so that's really, really easy. And so if we go over here into putty and we paste that in, obviously we need to put a // in front of here. It will start running and we can type in here hello world, and when Logstash gets started up we can actually see what Logstash does to the input. So the input here is into the console. Yes, need to run this as root. That's fine. So so let's do this one more time. So because I installed this as root, I need to run it as root. So there we go. Run Logstash one more time. And we'll do hello world. So that'll take input and then it should do some transformations in Logstash and then output it to the console. So this is taking raw log data and you can see that it's turned it into an ECS format message. This is a bit like what we talked about yesterday. When Loggy goes to school, we essentially take the log message, in this case hello world, and we turn it into something that's structured to make it easier to understand. And the cool thing here is that we've also added like the host name for the host in here, so we can actually see where the log message came from. We even gave it a timestamp. So originally, I just typed this into the command line. The log message is completely raw. It has nothing except hello world. And Logstash has added a timestamp, a version, a host name, useful information to help us out, and it's converted it into JSON for us as well. So it's done some pretty simple processing for us already. Now we might want to send this to Elastic. So I've got my Elastic Cloud over here, and I will need this username and password later. So let's just see how you would do that with Logstash, how you would output to Elastic Cloud. So I have a command line I prepared earlier I'm going to use to just demonstrate this. So we've got Logstash, we've got the username and the password there, so we'll go grab the password in a minute. And we also will need this cloud ID, which we can get from the Elastic Cloud console. So what we're doing now is we're taking input from the console just as we did before, but instead of sending it to standard output, we're actually going to send it to Elastic instead, which is obviously quite useful for us. So we'll copy the password and then we'll paste that into the password piece here, and then we'll just wait for our environment to start up. In fact, I can actually go into here and have a look at my Loggy goes to school deployment, and it should come up very soon. It's being created at the moment. We called it Loggy goes to school, remember? So there we have it. Loggy goes to school is started. So now we've got our cloud environment up and running. There's one thing we need to do. We need to go into the deployment and we need to copy this cloud ID. This cloud ID goes into the configuration here. And so now what's happening is we're taking input from the console and we're sending output to the cloud, to the Elastic Cloud. So that's why we need the cloud ID, the username, and the password. So now we can run Logstash, and we can say hello. Hang on, something not quite right about the syntax there. I think an extra quote got snuck in there. So now we can say hello world in here in Logstash, and we should see eventually the output in Elastic Cloud. So we click on open Kibana in here, and it's all connected to Elastic Cloud. Great. So we go into Kibana here and we click on discover. We look at logs here. We can see, there you go, our log message hello world came in, and you can see it's got all this useful data. So we've taken Loggy, we've transformed Loggy. We gave Loggy a timestamp, and we told Loggy which host it was from, and we put it in a format that is easy to understand. So that's the power of Logstash. This is very simple and quick to get started, and you can start doing things for your loggies and bringing them into Elastic. Thanks very much.